Here's one thing that might be killing your progress in life, especially if you're smart. All right, I'm going to just dive into it. I'm not going to blab on about my life story for 10 minutes before I get to the point. So the one thing that might be killing your progress, especially if you're smart, is something called intellectualization. Now, let me give you the official definition of intellectualization. I'm going to be reading off my computer screen, so you're going to see my eyes move, just FYI. Intellectualization is a psychological defense mechanism that involves using logic and reasoning to avoid uncomfortable emotions. Now, when I'm talking about intellectualization, I'm giving you that official definition, but that's actually not what I'm talking about in terms of what's killing your progress. I'm talking about intellectualization in a way where, in essence, and to put it in the plainest language possible, intellectualization in the way I define it is you overthink things to the point that you're always thinking and planning and thinking of scenarios that you actually never take action. So basically, it's overthinking. You overthink, you don't take action because you're constantly thinking about the best course of action to take. What ends up happening is life passes you by. One example is dating. Let's say a guy, this is all hypothetical, but let's say a guy wants to improve his dating skills to meet his future wife or girlfriend. In this example, dating, someone that's prone to intellectualization may take courses on dating. They may read books on dating and how to be more charismatic, but they may not actually go out and meet people. Another area of life where someone is very prone to intellectualize things is career. Let's say you are not happy with your current career and you want to switch careers. If you're prone to intellectualize things, you might read all these books on career changes. And trust me, like if you go to Amazon, there are tons of books out there on how to switch careers. So you might actually read through all of it. You might actually intellectually, do the exercises and like write out the exercises that they have in the book. But when it comes down to it, you may not actually apply for jobs in a role that you may be interested in switching to. So again, even though it looks like progress because you're thinking about it, you're reading about it, you're journaling about it, and you're maybe even like talking to people and doing informational interviews, if you're actually not taking the actions that require a little bit of vulnerability, again, it's all just in your head. The third area and example is health and fitness. How many of you guys have had friends where they're planning to get on a new diet or a new fitness regimen, and before they even start, they start saying like, well, actually, like I'm a hard gainer and this diet doesn't work well with me. I need to kind of like do research on the right diet. And what ends up happening is you follow up with them like weeks later, months later, maybe even years later, and they're still trying to figure it out, or they're still kind of like figuring out what their optimal like diet or workout routine should be. In reality, I think the answer is obvious to everyone. Like you just got to start and learn as you go along. But these are examples in different parts of life, namely around health, wealth, and relationships, where oftentimes if someone's prone to intellectualize things, how it can actually show up. The end result is a person's thinking about things. They may actually do research around how to like improve that part of their life, but they may not actually take the right action, which usually requires, the risk of failing to actually move the needle forward. So you might be wondering, and you might already know, what is the root of this defense mechanism, intellectualization? It's fear. Plain and simple. The first fear is a fear of failure. This one is very obvious. The reason why a lot of people intellectualize things is because it's a way of trying to get control over life, which inherently has a lot of uncontrollables. So they think, this is subconscious, that if they think about something enough, they can avoid landmines and basically execute in a way they can avoid failure. And what ends up happening is because they're so scared of failure, they end up living in their head, and that means that they don't actually learn from experience. So the fear of failure is one of the biggest drivers as to why people actually just stay in their head instead of actually living life and learning through experience. The second fear of why people intellectualize is tied to the fear of failure, but it's also the fear of looking bad. This is a very strong driver for most people. Most people are terrified of what people will think of them. This is why a lot of people, especially content creators, they are scared of really putting themselves out there because, God forbid, they go on screen and people make fun of them for how they look or how they talk or their advice, etc. Which, by the way, this is very understandable as to why people feel this way. But tying to the fear of failure, most people are scared of looking bad. Some of the beliefs that might come up include like, well, if I fail, what will people think of me? Like, people won't respect me. They might look down on me. They might laugh at me, or they might talk about me behind my back and laugh at me. And these are all shades and thoughts that tie to the fear of looking bad to other people. So what ends up happening is because people are so scared of looking bad, they never try and put themselves out there. And because they never try and put themselves out there, they never learn through experience. And because they never learn through experience, coincidentally, you're actually farther off, or they're actually farther off from making progress and achieving success in life. The third fear that's driving, intellectualization is the fear of not being good enough. This is an interesting one because most people are scared of this thing where they feel that if they were to try and fail, they would keep failing and never figure it out or never make progress in that part of life that they want to make progress in. And if they never figure it out, that actually is proof that they're not good enough in that area of life. This one is very, very insidious. And I could also see why most people don't even try and you just start thinking about things too much, because who wants to give it their all still to come up short? That's a very, very scary feeling, right? To know that your all wasn't good enough. Generally speaking, though, like in most areas of life, after you fail enough, you will learn and improve at the very least. However, for a lot of people, this fear of not being good enough and the fear of finding out that they're not good enough, which isn't true, by the way, is something that stops them from even trying. There's another fear that holds people back. It's a fear of pain, because oftentimes growth and progress can be very painful, and most people are terrified of pain. So if you associate action and progress with pain, what ends up happening is this individual will end up just staying safe. And for a lot of people, staying safe means just thinking about things, journaling about it, strategizing around it, but never doing anything about it. The last fear is a bit more unique. It's the fear of trying, failing, but the failure is setting back their life. Example might be like, if I invest in this, what if I end up destroying my finances and I have to start all over again? Generally speaking, these type of situations are not rational. And if you run the numbers, there are ways to de-risk these types of situations. But I would say if someone feels that doing something and making progress involves a risk of completely blowing up their life, this is another reason why most people decide to stay safe and not take a lot of action, if any action at all. Intellectualization really ruined my dating life in my early 30s. After I got sick, I moved back home. And after I moved back home, I thought, I don't know what disease or illness I have. Thankfully, nowadays, by the way, it's under control. It's good. But I was thinking I might need to go to Mexico for a stem cell transplant, which is really expensive. So I lived at home to save money. And during that time, I could have dated, but I didn't. Do you know why? I had this belief that no woman would want to be with a man in his 30s living at home. Men who live at home in their 30s are losers. And I'm not saying that because I actually think people who live at home in their 30s are losers, by the way. It's just I had this belief about myself where I felt like a loser because I lived at home. And because of that, you know what I did? I didn't date at all. To show you how powerful this defense mechanism was and how limiting it was, from the ages of 31 to 35, I'm 35 now, I basically did not date at all. And now I'm saying this because I'm looking at my friends. A lot of them are engaged. A lot of them are married. And I'm thinking, where did the first half of my 30s go in terms of dating and meeting someone? And I have no one else to blame but myself, because I got so deep in my head. I was just there's no way a single woman would ever want me because I'm in my 30s and living at home, and women don't like guys who live at home. I was so convinced about that belief, and I thought about it strategically, as in it doesn't make sense for me to date while I live at home. What ended up happening is I never even tried. And because I never even tried, now I'm in the situation at 35 making these YouTube videos talking about how I messed up. So what I'm trying to say is intellectualization, especially for people that are really cerebral and really smart, oftentimes it can really look like you're trying to help yourself, but in reality, it's really just a defense mechanism that's stopping you from actually living life, experiencing life, making mistakes, but also learning from those mistakes, because that's actually how you learn. So if you're wondering, how do I overcome intellectualization because I'm falling into it? Here are some ways. The first tip that I can give you to overcome this defense mechanism is to just do it and challenge your beliefs. Oftentimes, the reason why people intellectualize and never take action is because in their mind, they have this logical pattern of how things need to fold out in life in order for them to actually make progress in life. Going back to my dating example, I felt like for me to date, I need to move out of my home. But for me to move out of my home, first I have to save enough money for this medical procedure, which is going to, take a lot of time to save up. So it's kind of like I need to save, then I can move out, then I can date. These things need to happen in this order for me to be okay with dating. The reality is, if you want to challenge it, you could say like, do I really need to save up enough money and move out to actually go and date? That's a way I would have challenged my belief and just done it. So had I just been like, you know what? Let me just challenge that belief. Let me actually just try dating while I'm living at home. Let me try dating while I'm saving up this money and see what happens. That's one way to overcome overthinking and intellectualization. The second tip that I can give to overcome intellectualization is to know that it's okay to not be perfect. I think a lot of people that intellectualize things, they tend to be very cerebral, obviously, but they tend to also be perfectionists. So they want things to unfold exactly the way that they want, in the order that they want. Know that it's okay to fail. Know that it's okay to fail a lot. Know that it's okay to try and fail and correct yourself as you're trying and failing and learning and growing. Imperfect progress is better than no progress at all. The third tip I would give to overcome intellectualization is actually actively go out and have a mistake quota. Again, most people that are intellectualizing things are often very cerebral. They're very scared of taking action. And the reason why they're scared of taking action, tying back to the earlier points of fear, is like fear of failure, etc. Now, on the flip side, you can reframe your mindset and go out and try to make mistakes. Set a quota for making mistakes. So when you're actively going out to try to make mistakes, what in essence it communicates to your subconscious and your mindset is that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to mess up. Because the reason why, again, a lot of people intellectualize things is because they're scared of messing up their life, or they're scared that being imperfect will mess up their life. So setting a mistake quota actually kind of flips that whole script on its head. And I think this is a really good tip, because when you're actively going out trying to make mistakes, that means you're actually going to be able to take action and learn from your mistakes. The last tip I want to give you to overcome intellectualization is to know that usually the pathway to progress in life and success is a lot more direct than you think. To use my dating example again, I was talking about how I felt like I needed to move out to be able to date. And before I can move out, I had to save X amount of money. Oftentimes, the answer is a lot more simple and direct, and usually the route is more direct. Instead of all that stuff, I should have just dated. It's that simple. The direct thing is, what's actually stopping me from dating? Well, I have these beliefs, right? But is there actually really physically anything stopping me from dating? No, I could just date. If you want something in life and you want to make progress in life, oftentimes you can go directly from point A to point B. You don't have to go from point A to 8.1 to 8.2.2, 8.3.1, etc. like that. You can just literally go from point A to B. Oftentimes, especially for people that are cerebral and overthinkers, it's very easy to overcomplicate things, but trust me, usually the direct path is the best path. All right, so that's it, folks. I hope this was helpful. If you have any stories of you yourself intellectualizing things and how it held you back in life and stopped your progress, I would love to hear it. If you're willing to share in the comments below, please like and subscribe. I appreciate you all. I'll see you all next time.